So let us see now how to create a storage account. Obviously, first we are going to do it with the portal. So here goes the portal. You should go to all services, search for storage service, storage accounts. Don't use classic. Always use without classic. Classic is for old portals, old methodology, old deployment model we actually call it. We are using the latest ARM deployment model. So click on add here and provide the details. First you have to choose your subscription, your resource group, give the storage name. Now this name is going to be important because that will become the URL of it. We'll have to use the storage endpoints, and endpoints are going to have this name. So this is supposed to be unique also. Nobody else should have used it. Give some location, and now you have to choose between standard and premium storage. So I'll keep it as standard because I want to work with all of them. And we have got the type of account. You will see here three types of account. Blob storage, only blobs. It is optimized for just storing blobs and nothing else. That means table, queue and files cannot be managed by blob storage. It is very well optimized. Then we had standard storage, which is now referred as general purpose V1. Earlier we had only these two options, and what was there in this and what was there in this, they clubbed both of them into general storage V2 general purpose. So today I do not see a reason why I should use this or I should use this. If you already have old accounts, old storage account, even for them actually it is recommended to upgrade to storage V2. So what is the advantage of V2? You see here you get hot and cool, whereas here you do not get hot cool, and in blob you get hot cool. In blob we have limitation. We cannot store all types of storage services. We cannot manage all type of storage. But in storage we can manage all. But in V2 we can manage all the types of storage, blob, table, queue, file, and also we have the facility of hot and cool. So that is what is preferred. Storage V2 general purpose. Then we have got replication. Now what is this replication? I'll elaborate more. But you see there are four values of replication. But these four values may not be always there. Sometimes based on your location, you might get only LRS, GRS and RAGRS. You may not get zone redundant. Zone redundant storage is available only in few locations. East US is the most modern server, so everything is available there. But not necessary in other places we would have everything. For example, let's say I choose South India. We don't have ZRS here. But if I give East US, we will have ZRS facility here. So ZRS, what is it? I'll elaborate little later. Like that, hot and cool are the two access tiers. I'll keep it as hot for now, and I'm changing this to LRS, which is good enough for practice purpose. Click on next. Secure transfer required. That means only over HTTPS we will be able to transfer our data, and that's what is modern requirement. Modern application requirement is data should be secured when it is traveling over the network also. So if you disable this, HTTP and HTTPS both can be used, but if you enable this, only HTTPS can be used for accessing your data. That's what is secure transfer requirement. When you're using REST API, or if you're writing code in C# or Java or whatever, you are supposed to ensure that it is always HTTPS. Virtual networks. Now, if you remember, at the time of creating virtual network, we had secure endpoints. There, one of the option was storage account. See, when we create a storage account, we are going to get public endpoint. But if you want to restrict by any chance your storage account to only those applications which are running on virtual machines in your VNet or in your on-premise connected through VPN. That means you want your storage account to be accessible to only your private network. In those kind of cases, you would actually select a network here. You have to select your storage, you have to select your virtual network, and only the virtual machines in that virtual network will have access to the storage. Outside internet world will not have it. That is what is virtual networks option. Do you want to support data lake, which is a separate topic by itself? We are not interested in that right now. Say no. In case you want to provide some tags, most of the time tags are provided for the sake of billing. All the related services for a common customer, we would give common tags. And in billing, based on the tag, we can segregate the cost. So that's one of the options you have. You can look at the summary and say create. And as it is creating, let me explain you now what is the difference between hot and cold. We already understood standard and premium. Standard uses HDD drive, premium uses SSD drive. Premium is only for virtual machines. And most important thing you should remember, once you have created your storage account as standard, you cannot change to premium. It will continue to be standard. So if you want to move to premium, you'll have to probably create a new storage account and copy the data from old storage to the new storage. What is this hot tier and cool tier? See, whenever we are performing operations, in certain cases, storage will be more. That means we are rarely going to perform read and write operations, but data will be stored for a long duration. But in certain cases, data storage is not that important, but read and write operations are very frequent. So in those situations where you have frequent read and write operations, you should go for hot storage. And those situations where you have got less read and write operations, but storage cost is supposed to be optimized. We want lower storage cost and we have less read and write. Go for access tier as cool. But if your storage is not important to you, you are okay to pay little extra for storage, but you want to pay less for read and write operation. In such cases, go for hot. I'll show you practically, but let's see the other part also. We have got different types of replication models. Now, what are these replications? LRS, locally redundant storage. In LRS, in one data center, we will have 3 copies of our data. So by chance, if one copy goes down, automatically Microsoft will switch you to the other copy and you can continue working without any downtime. So your data is replicated 3 times in a single data center of a given region, wherever you are creating your storage account in that region. A request returns successfully only once it has been returned to all the 3 copies. That is okay. 3 copies will be stored and then you return back. Obviously, the benefit is what? If anything goes wrong because of the hardware, our data is not fully lost. It will be available from the other facility. LRS is less expensive, but what is the disadvantage of LRS? Now imagine the complete data center goes down. There is no documentation or there is no guarantee that the complete data center will never go down. Always there is a possibility of a data center getting blasted in a war, or probably because of natural calamity, cyclone or whatever, the whole data center is gone. Chances are rare, but if that happens, your data will be lost. And that's risky. So, what shall we do? Instead, we can go for something like GRS, which we'll discuss later, but GRS is more expensive when compared to LRS. Rather, LRS is the cheapest one. And LRS is the only option available if your storage account is premium. Remember this point. If your storage type is premium, which is supposed to be for virtual machines, then LRS is the only option available. Other options are not available. Then we have got ZRS, Zone Redundant Storage. Now what Microsoft did is they took one region and they further divided that region into multiple zones. And for each of these zones, they provided independent networking capabilities and powering capabilities. I mean, they isolated physically these three regions. Not region, zones. One region has three zones and three zones are completely isolated. Though they are in one location, they are still independent of their power supply. That means if the power supply goes down for one zone, it would still continue to run for the other two zones. That way they are completely independent. So when we use ZRS, our data is going to store in three different zones of the same region. So what is the benefit? Each storage cluster is physically separated from others and resides in its own availability zone. When I was teaching you networking, there also we have discussed availability zone and availability set. So availability zones wherever are available in those regions, you can choose the option ZRS, which is better than LRS, but obviously not as better as GRS. Because again, all the three are in same region. ZRS is not yet available in all the regions. Once you have created your storage account and selected ZRS, you cannot convert to any other replication. That is important to be remembered. So choose ZRS with caution. It has to be ZRS permanently thereafter. Consider ZRS for scenarios that require consistency, strong durability, high availability, even if an outrage or national disaster renders a zonal data center unavailable. That means we are assuming that one zone of that region alone is going down, the other two are still working. One more place where ZRS becomes really very useful is very important and no other choice is your data you're not supposed to keep outside that particular region. Say the law of the country says my data should not cross the boundary of the country. So in that kind of case, we cannot think of data in multi regions. It should all be in one region. So the law requirement also can make you use ZRS, which is better than LRS. Of course, cost also is better than LRS. Better in the sense more. GRS is going to have 6 copies of your data, 3 plus 3. So here we are going to have a primary region and we are going to have a secondary region. Primary region will have 3 copies and secondary region will have 3 copies. So like this, total 6 copies. So let us say complete primary region is blasted. Still, the secondary region, which is generally hundreds of miles away from the primary region, will keep our data secured. So don't ask me what if secondary region is also blasted. That means it's a world war situation, everything will go away then. Because hundreds of miles to data centers blasted, you have no choice, you have lost your data then. But that is the risk you are carrying. In all circumstances, there is no choice. Data is durable even in case of complete regional outrage or disaster. If the failure occurs in primary region, Azure storage automatically fails over to the secondary region. Remember, Unless it fails over to the secondary region, you will not be able to read data from the secondary region. Secondary region is only like your backup. But because we are writing to the primary and from primary data is going into secondary, billing is going to be more for you. It will be for writing to primary as well as moving from primary to secondary also you are going to be charged. So cost is more when it comes to GRS. Request to write data is replicated asynchronously. That means from primary region to secondary region, asynchronous write is happening. So your performance of the application doesn't get affected whether you are using LRS or GRS or ZRS, because the secondary write operations are asynchronous. Your application doesn't have to wait for these write operations to be completed. You write to the primary region and you come back. You don't have to wait for writing to the secondary region. Second region is automatically determined. You cannot choose. You cannot say that my primary is USA, East USA, so my secondary should be Central US or maybe East India. You cannot do West India. You cannot do that. You don't have choice. Based on your primary, automatically the secondary region is mapped by Microsoft and we cannot change it. And last is RAGRS, most important. Same as GRS, but gives you ability to read data from the secondary region. Here also you have 6 copies. Here also we have got primary, secondary region. Here also we have got, everything is same. Secondary region data is asynchronous copy. But the extra advantage here is from the secondary region, we are going to have the ability to read data. So when I say we can read data from the secondary region, what should be the endpoint? See, if my account name is my account, this is going to be the endpoint name of primary region. Whereas in secondary, same my account, but secondary part will be added. I mean that secondary is added. That's how the differentiation happens. This is extra. And the security key which is required for accessing primary and secondary is same. The security key is not different. So what we can do is we can architect application in such a way that the read and write operations are majorly happening on the primary. Common routine read and write operations we perform on primary. But those places where we just want to read the data and present it as reports, we would do it from secondary. Thus, we have divided the load between primary and secondary. That is the advantage. Load balancing through application can be done here. So that is the major advantage of RAGRS. RA is read only GRS. Read access. RA, read access, geo redundant storage. So 4 options, very important. You will have a lot of scenarios given in your case study when Microsoft is giving you some kind of exam where they will ask you, if this is the situation, which replication model is the best. So based on these points, you have to figure out what exactly is the perfect replication to be assigned for your storage account. And you can change once created, but you have to only keep in mind ZRS cannot be changed. If you have chosen ZRS, you are fixed. And ZRS is the only option available when we use LRS is the only option available when we use premium storage. These points you have to keep in mind, because the question can be based out of that. We want to create a virtual machine which has premium storage. Performance is the criteria for read and write operations. What is the most relevant replication model? Obviously, blindly you have to go for LRS. So this is all about creating a storage account, and yes, we can see here the storage account is completed. You can go here, and these are all properties of your storage account. You have got blob, files, tables, queues, and this is what is our focus from next session.